Dun, dun. Peace. Peace. What's going on? You see the title? The title is speaking about autonomy. The reason I ask this question is because we have to examine our condition currently. There's a call and a plea for everybody to unite and for everybody to pretty much become autonomous. This is what we're saying. Peace, peace, shalom, shalom, peace. To become autonomous. Remember what autonomy means. Autonomy means to be able to self-govern. That is what autonomy is. To be able to self-govern. Now here's the situation. Fresh out of slavery, 1865, Emancipation Proclamation, fresh out of slavery, our ancestors were able to create societies, communities, towns without the assistance of any government. It became so powerful that by the turn of the century, the 20th century, there were at least 9 to 10 different riots all throughout the United States in quote-unquote all black towns. Why? These towns had become autonomous, self-autonomous. Why? Because they were already built inside of the technology because they were utilizing it. Slavery created a whole mass of innovation and a whole mass of creation as well. Indeed, nationality is always a key. After the Emancipation Proclamation, our people had an opportunity to reclaim nationality and do other things, but we got caught up. So, in the process of the Emancipation Proclamation and being separated from society at the behest of the Emancipation Proclamation, this created a separation, or what they would call segregation, right? This segregation was the best thing that happened to us. Because in that process, we became self-autonomous because remember, we were the ones mining the fields and so on and so forth and doing all of these things. And in the process, we created inventions that would make it much more easier in these adverse conditions. We came up with all types of innovations, the cotton gin, all types of different things. We came up with these innovations. By the turn of the century, we had flourishing communities. Rosewood, Elaine, Arkansas, North Carolina, Oklahoma. We had black Wall Streets. We had numerous black Wall Streets throughout the United States at the turn of the century. In the Jim Crow movement, all of that. Even we had, with all of those adversities, we still had an economic foundation. We still built cities and towns. We had our own schools, banks, and so on and so forth. Somewhere down the line, that became a nightmare for another demographic of people, specifically the European. Those who had enslaved our people, that became a nightmare for them because we were moving at a faster pace with finances and economy way more than them. So what happened was, somebody said, we need to integrate. We need to reintegrate them back into our society. Therefore, once we reintegrate them, then we can segregate them again. But it will be under our control. And it will be under government regulation that we segregate them. They will never be able to mimic what their ancestors did before them or after them. Before them, so we'll never be able to do it. This is what they say, right? But here's the reality. That happened. Many towns got shut down. Many places we hear about the towns that got drowned out. How they watered towns. They actually drowned out towns of black people, wealthy black people. They took thousands and thousands of acres of land. Over 250,000 acres to 300,000 acres of land was taken from your descendants. Pardon me, your ancestors was taken from them. You know what I'm saying? People who were actually professionals. This wasn't just slaves or whatever. These were people who actually became professionals and begin to build their communities with an economic foundation. Now, how can we in this day and time, can we mimic that? Can we recreate it? You know what? Yes, we can. Tulsa, indeed. Tulsa, Arkansas, North Carolina, the Carolinas. Matter of fact, Raleigh, Greenville, and Fayetteville had a strong economic base. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these places had economic bases strong, and the European couldn't move. He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't do anything with it because he was being knocked off because everything was coming back to us. And in the process, even some of those Europeans were coming to us to do business now because we had stores and so on and so forth. This was very scary because it took away the ability to control a whole demographic of people. But here comes a whole demographic, A. Philip Randolph and a certain other W.E.B. Du Bois and some other people, they came along and said, you know what, we want equality, we want to be equal to the European. This was the game. They were paid to say those things. This was the game, to remove you out of your own self-autonomy into a controlled autonomy. This is what occurred, right? So what happens? We have segregation. And then we have integration. And integration was integrating us back into their society. It caused so many problems. Busing, you know what I'm saying? Our children getting bused into quote unquote white schools and communities and so on and so forth. Caused a whole problem when we had our own communities and we gave it all up for a dream. To chase an idea or a dream that didn't belong to the masses of the segregated people. It became an idea that was enforced on them through people who look like them. Martin Luther King, W.E.B. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph. People who looked like you. And today they still use people who look like you to influence you for the wrong purposes. And today they use, quote unquote, a lot of black women to do it. They're putting their faces everywhere with this liberal ideology that's very, very scary because it removes the natural family from the ideology. You understand what I mean? And when you think about us being segregated in our own autonomy, the family structure was everything. Man, wife, children, it was everything. In this day and time, women don't care about men. We don't need niggas. We hear it all the time. I don't need them. I'm independent. I don't need niggas. See, that's the purpose of the reintegration. That was the purpose, the whole purpose. That was the purpose of it, to get that type of psychology where the women became dependent upon a system and not the men or not the man. They became dependent upon a governmental system. This is why government plays such a strong role in things today, and we don't want to let it go because we're codependent. We're dope fiends on government. But see, government is to govern you men. It's not to allow you to have any autonomy or control over your own thought processes. It's to govern you, to make you work in their behalf for their accord, using you to their own advantage when you should be using them to your advantage. So here's the thing. You want to talk about getting us right? Well, we have to separate. And we have to separate with our best and brightest minds. We need, everybody can't be Michael Jordan. Everybody can't be a rapper or a singer, man. Where's our carpenters? Where's our electricians? Where's our scientists? You understand what I'm saying? Where's our engineers? Where's our builders, our architects? These are the things that we need in order to rebuild society. Where's our bankers, our economists, our financial experts? These are the things that we need to rebuild economy. These are the things that we need to rebuild, and so that we are able to separate effectively and create our own and work on our own and buy and sell from each other, barter and trade from each other, and build our economy to the point where, guess what? Other people will come and buy and sell with us because we are able to demand and supply our own market. We are able to wholesale and produce the things that we produce at wholesale. Manufacturing our own things. We need to manufacture again. We need to create and to build and to produce again in order to be successful and to become self-autonomous. Because we can't be self-autonomous when you got a whole system that you depend upon specifically for food, clothing, and shelter. Can you hunt? Can you build a house? Can you build a hut? Can you build a tree hut? You know what I'm saying? Can you fish? Do you understand the science of how to, purify your water if you ain't got filters? Do you understand what happens if, you don't have lights in your home or so on? Do you know how to survive? Because we haven't been surviving. What we have been doing is somebody has been helping us along the way. And in the process of helping us along the way, we're dying with that help. That help is killing us systematically. Methodically, it's killing us, and we're allowing ourselves to be dead because we are distracted by material. Things that you can't leave and take with you when you leave this form. You can't take your Mercedes Benz. You can't take all your clothes and all your jewels and all your garbs. You can't take all your money. Those things are physical. They're only made for this environment, for this manifestation. But guess what? We fall in love with the materialism. When we fall in love with the materialism, you begin to lose your soul. Because materialism or materials are deities. They are also gods. And people worship God. Which God they worship, who knows? But there are many gods for people to worship. And people worship the God that is most convenient for them and conducive for their outcomes. But we want to talk about how we are to get ourselves together and start all over again and rebuild. But you can't rebuild if you don't know what was lost. You can't rebuild if you don't know your past. This is very important to know your past, because if you don't, you are condemned to repeat it. And when I look at the condition of our people, we are condemned to repeat our past if we're not careful. We don't want to know history. We say stuff like, nigga, I don't want to hear that shit. That shit happened way back. But tell the Jews that. Tell any other nation who are well aware of their history and their culture not to throw it away and to forget about it and just move forward. It'll never happen. Eric Harris, authority, unity. Indeed, authority. The first 6 letters of authority is author. An author is someone who writes or creates a script and a narrative. So we must become authors for our own condition, because somebody has authored our condition already. You see what I'm saying? And they put it in place, and we fell right into the character mode. It was an old man. It was a man named Henry Dumas. And Henry Dumas was a poet. And he said something that was very profound in a poem. He said, the Western society of something like this. The West created the role of the Negro, and the nigger was the one who played the role, in a sense. You understand what I'm saying? So the reality is what are we doing? We're so busy arguing over bullshit, trying to prove that somebody was better than somebody, or this person don't know what he's talking about, or that person know what he's talking about, and we're dying at the hands of a system. And some of us can't even build a house. Like I said, can you hunt? Can you fish? You know what I'm saying? Can you start a fire without matches? I mean, can you actually survive? Because this is what it's going to take. The bickering and the things that we bicker about is weak, and it's a waste of time, because no other nation bickers about the shit that we bicker about. Nobody else. And we wonder why we so behind. Because we really don't want to be responsible and accountable for our own condition. We really want to sound like we're responsible and accountable for our own condition. But when it's time to put the work in, nobody really wants to put the work in, because nobody wants to be responsible for the outcome and the possibilities of what could happen when you are putting in the work. That's just it. So we talk as a people. We speak and talk a lot against each other the most, as if I'm trying to make myself seem smarter than you, or you try to seem smarter than me. But the reality is while we're doing that, other nations are flying right past us. While we so busy trying to live in the ego and so on and so forth. So we'll never become or get back to our autonomy, because we're so busy trying to fit into an ideology that really doesn't fit for us. When is the last time a person actually thought for themselves? When is the last time we actually thought? Because thinking is a science. It's actually a science to think. You know what I'm saying? It's actually a science to listen, to hear. Those are sciences. Passive hearing, active listening, and all this. These are sciences, because there's a way to listen. See, sometimes a lot of people say, I'm listening to you, but they're just waiting to respond for whatever you're saying. They're not listening at all. And they miss the mark. You know what I'm saying? And they sound real ridiculous when they miss the mark. You see what I mean? So what I'm saying to us, and what I'm saying to myself as well, because when I'm talking to y'all, I'm also talking to me. I'm not separating myself from the chastisement that I'm bringing across the screen, because I'm a part of this just as much as you are. But one thing that's different is that I know and understand the role that I play and the influence that I have on myself first. I'm not concerned about the influence that I may have on others. because I influence myself first. There's something about yourself that you have to deal with. See, all of the words that begin with in, that's just what they are. They're internal. They're already with you. Intelligence, intellect, integrity. You can't buy none of those things. You are born with them. You come with them. Now, how you draw it up, that's different. I've thought proper to wit by going to my Congress rep on this topic of nationality. Well, you know, when you go to them on the topic of nationality, they get like this. Because you're not supposed to know about nationality. This is why Noble Drew Ali was the best kept secret. Because he brought nationality to the people. And nobody knew who he was. Nobody heard about him. Just a few people. So you know you're onto something. And every nation or every people have a nationality. You know, when I lived in Africa, I was in South Africa for some time. Almost 4 years. While I was over there, when I first got there, I had an African say to me, brother, you're not an African. Why are you here? So I started laughing. I said, well, brother, neither are you. You're not an African either. So he kind of looked at me, but he had a smirk because he knew where I was going, because I know and understand that they don't use the term African in Africa. They call themselves and identify themselves by their tribes and their nationality. And they only use the term African in Europe or America, or what we call the West. Why? Because the term African has a connotation attached to it that's economic and financial, because you have a demographic of people of African descent who don't know who they are. So this is why when they come to the West, they use African, because we got us, African hair braiding. But we've been braiding hair for centuries before we knew anything about Africa. We was doing cornrows and all that before we knew anything about Africa. Remember, slavery stripped us of all thinking, all thoughts tied back to that landmass. Cut the tongues out, people who still knew certain language, cut the tongues out, whatever. They gave us straight amnesia. But in the process of the amnesia, the cultural paradigm still exists. The connection still exists. The call and response that we do in church, or when we talk to each other, the hair braiding, all types of things are still the remnants of where we come from. Now, mind you, my family, my descendancies have been on these shores since the 18th century. But I still have a descent into Africa as well. So this is my land, America. I will fight all day for this, because this is where I come from. This is mine. I don't claim Africa is my home. I claim Africa is a descendant landmass from whence I come. You understand what I'm saying? So there's no way that we can run away from who we are, because your DNA tells you who you are without you even knowing. Let me give you a perfect example. I joined an African dance troupe in 1980, pardon me. Shanti Amani, a West African Yoruba dance troupe. I was a percussionist. I played the quinto, the talking drum, right? Years later, I do my DNA and find out that I have West African descendancy, Yoruba and Igbo. So me joining a Yoruba dance troupe because I hear Shango, Oni Shango, something that hit me some type of way. You know what I'm saying? That hit me hard as a child. So I ran right to it. Come to find out, my bloodline is Yoruba and Igbo and Moorish from the Iberian Peninsula and so on. So everything that I've ever done was already being guided by the ancestral line that's within me. They always say that your ancestors are with you and you are your ancestors, and you are. Everything that you are is every ancestor before you is within you as you stand. So you carry literally your ancestors on your back. You're literally carrying them because they're with you. You're the composition of all of them right now. So when they say things like, I'm not my ancestors, we ain't our ancestors. No, we are our ancestors. And I'm going to tell you something. For the people who be saying that, I'm not my ancestors. Well, you ain't doing it. Your ancestors actually fought. The ones you talking about that you're not them, they actually fought through all types of adversities and built cities and schools at a time where they wasn't supposed to do that. We can't even mimic what they did in a time where they had all types of adversities in front of them, and they still were successful. Umar Johnson can't finish his school. He can't finish his school, and we built colleges. Booker T. Washington built a whole university. And we talking about, I'm not my ancestors. Nigga, you sound stupid. You are your ancestors. Maybe you should say that you are, and maybe something in you will be inspired to do something to the capacity of what your ancestors did. Because guess what? They ain't happy right now. They're not happy with us right now. Like the brother said, no excuses. We make a lot of excuses because you know what? Sometimes there's a benefit in the excuse for those who use the excuse. See, the problem with us is that some of us want to go the right way. Some of us can't go the right way because of, like the brother El Yarel said, weak fighting and infighting. That's happening with us right now. It's always been happening with us. Because somebody works for the other side on purpose. They might not even know it consciously. But subconsciously, they know that everything they're doing is thwarting or attempting to thwart progress. Indeed, the solution is always in the problem. It is. Just like the truth is always in a lie. Because in order to lie, you got to have a piece of truth in it. So it's no question. No question. I agree with Mr. Harris 100%. But we all know what the problems is. We talk about the problems every single day. As quote unquote, we talk about the problems. You know what I mean? We write federal funded grants for gun violence in our communities. We write grants and federal funding from the government to give us money to help the problems in our community. But guess what happens? Islam, the problem gets worse in our community because you put the government in. Let me tell you how. When you write a federally funded grant from a problem-based, specific gun violence, that grant is funded. Every year that grant gets funding. What happens is that the grant only gets funded as long as the problem exists. You get my point? You see where I'm going with this? So we have accessories to murder. We have a system that's creating a pipeline for murder and destruction by finance. And you have people who look like you in these community centers and so on and so forth who are getting this finance. They're not coming with a solution. They don't want a solution because the problem is paying off. And it's long-term security with the problem. Because guess what we're going to do? We're going to always kill each other. So guess what? I'm going to always have a job then, huh? As long as I write a problem-based grant, as long as this grant is based on, gun violence, I'm going to always have money. Because we're never going to solve the problem. But we all know what the problem is. But guess what? A solution-based grant would take just as long to implement as a problem-based grant. And a problem-based grant, you ain't got to implement anything because the problem is already in existence. You just let that live, and that grant keeps going. But a solution-based grant to stop or to eradicate gun violence by the means of attacking poverty and so on and so forth, you'll get people who will stand in your way and say, "Well, I don't know if that'll work." They look just like you too, gatekeepers. They look just like you. They'll stand in your way. I don't know why, because you know why? Because you're cutting into their money. You're cutting into their finances because they're actually manipulating the system. They're corrupt, they're dirty, and they're getting money from the trauma and the pain of our community, our mothers, our sons, daughters, so on and so forth. So they have merchandised trauma. They have commercialized trauma and packaged it up and sold it back to you. That's the problem with being a part of a system that you are, quote unquote, inclusive in, right? We always talk about inclusive and diversity and multicultural and ethnic and blah, blah, blah. And all of those words that our people, get lost in or get pushed to the back end. Or people jumping on our platform and saying, oh, it's no different from, LGBTQ, just like black people. No, it's not. That's a behavior. That's a behavior. Stop with the nonsense. And we got to stop allowing everybody to jump on our platforms. And we got to stop being everybody's friend. Nobody's your friend. Nobody cares about you. Nobody loves you. Nobody likes you. Nobody cares about you. And until you start caring about Islam, until you start caring about yourself and caring about people who look like you, then guess what happens? Then things change. But we have to be responsible for the change. Remember what I said to you earlier. Government to govern you men. It's to govern you. It's not to allow you to have any autonomy. But we want to build our own. But do we really want to build our own? Because What is it going to take to actually build our own? You're going to have to let go of your codependency on a system. You're going to have to actually put all your skill sets into effect. You're going to have to bring a skill to the table, man. A real life skill. Not your talking, but something that can serve us and our people. A real life skill set. We need doctors. We need nurses. We need plumbers. We need security specialists. We need people who can do cameras and AI. We need an engineer. We need everything. We need farmers. We got farmers, but nobody's dialoguing with our own. We're not even dialoguing with our farmers to create some type of scenario where we can buy from our own farmers and create something for them where they can get a market where they can begin to express and push off their things as well. You know what I'm saying? We got to do this. We got to look at a way in which we can separate ourselves. Separate ourselves and continuously keep what we have and maintain and grow more and gain more and acquire more. But it's only going to be done through us saying, you know what? I'm tired, man. Because guess what our ancestors did? They got busy. Right out of slavery, they got busy. They didn't depend on nothing and nobody but themselves. They got busy and they built communities from the ground up. Now, what's wrong with us? Indeed, we got truck drivers, so on and so forth, but we got to find a reason to celebrate us. We're working inside of a system that doesn't celebrate us. So we need to take all of our skill set and create our own, separate ourselves. That's the only way we're going to do it. We can separate and be right here. Instead of me going to Walmart, I'll just come to one of y'all stores. Somebody got to open one, right? Start with a mom and pop store. It starts small. In my town where I'm from Syracuse, New York. There's a place called Green Hill Farms. Green Hill Farms is a family-owned business. It was a corner store. Actually, it started as a buggy and wagon spot. As you're riding your horse, buggy, and wagon down the road, you can stop and grab an apple and put a little dollar there in this little box. It went from a box to a major corporation over a 100-year period. But that's the consistency of being autonomous. And that's the drive that we had. You understand what I'm saying? To be autonomous. But by the 40s, by the 50s, our communities were shutting down because of integration. Watch the movie Lackawanna Blues. Excellent flick. Showing you the history of Buffalo before integration. Buffalo, New York. The history, like, dope flick. Flourishing community. Flourishing. See things like, so we have to understand, like in my town, Syracuse, the South Side at one point in time, it was flourishing. It was flourishing. By the 80s, it began to die. It began to die. A lot of those ancestors passed on. We had stores. We had Ebony Market. You know what I'm saying? Joe's Market. We had stores, and then the Arabs came in. And they came in with heroin, and then they bought corner stores and set up shops. And now you got Arabs in every corner store all throughout the East Coast. And we allow them in our communities, and they become wealthy and rich, generationally rich, off of our quote-unquote poverty. Their children is driving Benzes and so on and so to junior high and high school. Your child is catching a bus. This is what happens when you allow others to come into your community and to eat you alive. And everybody has came into our communities to eat us alive. Peace. They all came in. Indians, Arabs, Jews. They've all come into your community, made millions and left. And took the money with them. We have to stop this type of stuff. We have to go into our own communities and make them pay taxes. If you don't pay taxes, you got to get the hell out. Straight up. That's how it used to be. Why aren't we doing these things now? Why aren't we actually doing these things now? Islam, Brother Parnell's Bay. Why aren't we doing these things now? It's a question to ask yourself. Think about it. What's going on with us to the point that we can't get together and create a society? I know what's going on. It's ego going on. In this society, many societies that we're trying to build today are being built on religion and spiritual things and ideologies. That don't work. You know why? Because we don't like each other's ideologies and spirituality. He's a Muslim, he's a Hebrew Israelite. He's a 5%er, he's an atheist. I'm not fucking with them niggas. Excuse my language. That's how it go. He don't believe what I believe and I can't mess with him. He don't believe what she don't believe, I can't mess with him. That's the problem too. My thing is I don't care what you believe, because when it's time to build, I don't care about your affiliation and your belief system. What's the skill set you got and how does it benefit us? How can it benefit? I don't care what you believe. Don't bring your belief. When it comes down to nation building, don't bring your belief to me. I don't care about your belief system. Can you use a chainsaw? A hammer? Nail? Do you know how to use a T-level, a square? You understand? I mean, like, do you know how to lay concrete? Blacktop? What can you do? Do you know how to roof? You know what I'm saying? Do you know how to build a foundation? To build a house? You know what I'm saying? Do you know how to use trees to build shelters? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? The point of the matter is we got to go beyond what we think we're doing. Parnell's people obey because, yeah, we really don't like each other. You're 100% correct. You know why? Another reason why is because we're not all the same people. We got the same experience. The prophet said it best. The Moors have the blood of every nation running through their veins, which brings about a cross spirit. It's the truth. It's the truth. So me in this day and time, I've moved on. I'm not trying to link up with you just because you call yourself a Moorish American. You know what I'm saying? I'll link up with a 5%. I'll link up with anybody who wants freedom. Liberation. I don't care how it comes. If that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're seeking, that means that you have some type of plan in mind in order to achieve it, because you just don't achieve it by talking about it. There's things that you have to do to get it. And that's what people don't want to do. They don't want to get it. Because there's things that you got to do to actually get your freedom and your liberation. Listen to the words I'm using. Freedom and liberation. There's some things you got to do. Stace, my brother. Stace Place. What's good, my brother? Love you, man. There's some things that you got to do to get free. To liberate yourself first and others. Do you know what liberation means? Let's think about Haiti and the French. How they liberated themselves from the French. But look at them today. They suffered because of the liberation. There's lessons to be learned in history. They suffered for the liberation of their own people because the Europeans said, you know what, we can't mess with Haiti. We're not giving them any say. No. But guess what happened? Haiti got greedy. Their own people inside got greedy and began to strip them. Same thing with Africa. Some of the countries in Africa, their leaders are tyrants. They're actually tools and puppets for Europe and put in place. These are all the same situation. See, worldwide, the same things happen. Infiltration. While we are busy trying to assimilate into societies, other societies are infiltrating into ours and destroying us even more. So I don't believe in assimilation. I've never been one to assimilate. I'm an infiltrator. I've never been one to assimilate. When I'm somewhere, I'm not there to blend in. I'm there to infiltrate. I'm there to raise a ruckus. I'm there to cause something to happen where we have to re-examine what's happening in this particular environment. That's why I infiltrate. I've never been one to blend in. I don't blend in. I've never been a blend-inner. I don't blend in. I don't just get in and sit there and just blend in with I don't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. My spirit don't allow me to blend in. My spirit allows me to stand out. Because to blend in means I'm a sheep. To blend in means I'm just doing what everybody else does. That means I'm being guided by something that's not greater than me. And who knows where it's going to guide me to. Because it's going to guide me either to death, prison, homosexuality, or some other weird shit. So you got to be careful what's guiding you or how you're being guided. You have to be careful. Because somebody has an outcome for you if you don't have an outcome for yourself. This is why I always say, do we really want to separate? Do we really want to get things going to the point where we have our own? Do we really want that? Because you're going to need a military too. I'm for it. I'm ex-military. I'm military trained by them. They killers. So I'm military trained. So what are we doing? I've talked about combat training, survival trainings, going out into the woods on. Everybody laugh at me. But what happened with, how do you secure your own home from invaders? How do you secure the area of your home, your perimeter from invaders? Because it's going to come. You know what I'm saying? So what are we doing? How are we actually really being prepared? How are we really preparing ourselves? No. You know why? We like to be entertained. We love entertainment. We love entertainment. Even what I'm doing right now, some people find this as entertainment. That nigga, Sheik-El, he's entertaining. He got the words, he can talk. But Sheik-El live his shit. I'm not talking. I'm not talking. Understand that. I'm an elder, man. I'm almost 60 years old. I'll be 60 soon. I didn't become 60 years old being a fool. I know some things that y'all don't know. And it's not ego, it's wisdom. It's years of living that has allowed me to gain some information that you may not have. Our people are suffering from the all about me syndrome. We can't stand to see someone else getting some attention. We plot to bring each other down all while we are acting like we care. Come on, bro. You telling the exact truth, man. And to think about that, what type of mindset do you have, or anyone who lives like this, to see somebody else gain success bothers them? That's wickedness. But guess what? We have that in our society, and every nation has it in their society. The haters. The haters. But guess what? A hater is easy to spot. Even the ones that smile and pretend to not be haters. Just like you, brother Parnell's people, babe, just like you broke that down and you analyzed that the way you did it, the only reason you could do that is because you actually know people who are like this, acting like they care. You've experienced it, which is why you can put your finger on it. And this is the thing. When you go through certain experiences, you become perfected. You are able to observe, see things, not make the same mistake, and blah, blah, blah. You are able to see things that others can't see because you've become perfected in your particular experience of life. You've become perfected, and you're at a point of life where others may not be at that point. Sometimes we say things like, yo, bro, I already see where you're going. I can help you along the way, but you don't want the help. But I already know where you're going. I did what you did. You ever heard that saying? Man, I done did that before. Where you going, man? I already done been to that. Or, been there, done that. You hear all of these sayings. It's true. Some of us have been there and done that. And there's a lesson in that for those who haven't been there and done that. Because I may help you get there and do that with success. Because you may try to get there and do that and have failure. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because guidance. Everybody needs guidance. Everybody needs guidance. I didn't become a great martial artist because I just picked up books and was studying on my own at home. No, I had a guide. I had a teacher. I had an instructor. And many schools of thought that I've sat in, I've had instructors, I've had guides. You understand? And now I'm a guide. And I tell people often, use me for what I am. I'm your brother, but I'm also a guide. I'm also wise counsel. Use me. Do not be afraid to pick up a phone and give me a holler, man. I'll put my phone number out to everybody. Call your brother. Talk to me. Especially if you're a youngster. If you're a youngster, holler at me, man. I got something for you. Trust me. I got something for you. Holler at me. But come in humility. Don't come as if you want to fight me or something, because you'll never get anything from me but chastisement. I'm a very humble person. Humility, I live in it. Humility and gratitude are two of the things that I live in. I'm not afraid to say I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to say, brother, can you help me? I'm not afraid to say those things. I've asked brothers and sisters for help if I need it. Brother, can you help me? I'll ask you. That's not just, and I'll get a favorable reply. I've never been a person to attack others intentionally. If I attack you, you attack me first. Well, let me think about that. Because it depends upon what you say in the tackle. Now, when I was a youngster in college and back in my young years, I would attack you 5% wise. I was always out trying to chop somebody's head off. Always looking for, I was a kid. I was always doing that. I was raised doing that, to show and prove. I was raised to show and prove and to never take anything on face value. You know what I'm saying? But I took those lessons and applied them to myself in other ways. And I live and I love the science of humility, because inside of humility, there's lessons to learn about your own self. You know what I'm saying? There's lessons to learn about you. And the best book to read is your own book, the book that you wrote, the living book. You have to go inside the book and read it, because there's chapters that's being designed and written every day that you may not pay attention to if you're not reading your book, you, actively. Peace to the God, peace. That's my brother Myron right there. That's the God Mecca. That's my man right there. We came up together. That's one of my good brothers. I love that brother, man. He's done things for me, you know what I'm saying, that you know what I mean, that he's a great man, you know what I'm saying, and I love him. You know what I mean? So that's my brother right there. If you need something, holler at him too. He nice with the Clippers. You know what I mean? He got a lot of things going on. He's a master of a lot of things, man. You know what I'm saying? So holler at him. But this is where we are. Parnell's. Watch how they do Minister Farrakhan as he ages. They're going to start turning on him. Bruh, of course, they're doing it now. Bro, they've been doing it. See, here's the thing. Farrakhan is sitting in the seat of power. Everybody want to see. Everybody want to see. When you sit in the seat of power and everybody wants it, what happens? Conflict, warfare is what happens, right? It's the same thing that happened with Prophet Noble Drew Ali. They tried to get rid of him while he was on the scene, in the flesh. Same thing happened with Elijah. The same thing that's going to happen with Minister Farrakhan. When Minister Farrakhan leaves the scene, when he passes on, it's going to be a wrap. It's going to be, that whole movement is going to die. There's going to be stragglers and so on and so forth, but that movement is going to die, because guess what? What happens when your leader go? If you haven't raised others with the ideal of leadership. See, leadership is a skill set too. To be raised in a leadership skill set and to teach that skill set is a skill set. You know what I mean? It's a methodology to teach leadership, because there is a way to lead depending upon the circumstances in the environment that you're in. Leading comes in different degrees to lead. You understand what I mean? I've been a leader. I'm still a leader. And in this day and time, as I lead, I don't lead with physical action anymore. I lead through examples. I lead through my words. I lead through my wisdom. But if push comes to shove, I can lead physically. If I have to get out there and do certain things, I will do that, because that's how I operate. I would never have you do something that I don't demonstrate for you first. That's not how I get down. I'm not the dude that's going to say, yo, man, I dare you to pick up that rock and throw it through the window. I was the dude who said, nah, man, show me how to throw that rock through the window. You do it first. That was me. You're never going to just sucker me into some nonsense, because I'm going to ask you to demonstrate. Why you want me to throw the rock through the window? Why don't you do it? Show me how to do it so I can do it right. See, I just caught his card. I just pulled his bluff. You see what I'm saying? And that's a lot of what's going on. A lot of people bluffing. A lot of people just bluffing because it sounds good. Facebook is an environment where you can become anybody you want. It's a fantasy world. It's a cyberspace world. You can be anyone. You can pretend. You can take pictures on somebody else's car and say it's yours. You can do all types of things. You can create a whole narrative and scenario about yourself, and it's a full-blown lie. That's why cyberspace is good for some actors. And that's why cyberspace is bad for truth tellers. Because when we tell the truth, we get knocked off the screen. Or we get 45 days of silence or censorship or blah, blah, blah. But yet you don't want the truth. Because the truth, you have to be accountable. So we like illusions, like Mr. Harris said. Mr. Harris, the word illusion, the first 3 letters is ILL, which means sickness. Ill, to be sick. So an illusion is a person who's sick. And they create the illusion in their own thought process. Illusion turns to delusion. Illusion is not just a magic trick. You know, hands quicker than the eye. I'll give you a perfect example of what I mean. This is what illusion is. You see it. First three letters of illusion is ill, right? See what I mean? That's an illusion, a slight trick of hand. But then you also have the illusion. It's a thought process, a sick thought or a sick mind. That illusion is seen. It's the perception by the individual drawing it up becomes delusion. Because when they throw it back out, it becomes delusion. Their illusion becomes delusion because it is mental illness. Exactly. It is delusional when it's released out of their mouths. You see how that flip? See how that flip? Illusion. See how that flip? Likewise, my brother, love is love and always overpowers the hate. You already know, fam. You already know, man. We done been through a whole bunch, bro. We probably got more to go through. Inshallah. So, yeah, man. This is where it's at with me. And this is what I'm saying. Think about that. Think about that. Go back and replay this video. Listen to it. Replay it and share it with people, man. Even have a conversation about it because there's a lot of talking points in here that can actually be discussed over a table with other like-minded people. And we do have to be active. I agree with you, Mr. Harris. We have to be active. Active. The first three letters is act. If. What is the if? The if is actually what makes the act live or makes the act energize. So we have to be active. We have to become the act. In the form, we have to be it. We can't think active. We have to become active. You have to become the message that you bring. You have to embody. You have to become the embodiment of the divine five principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You must become that. You must embody it. You must become it. It's not enough to speak it. You have to be it. You have to be it. This is the power. The power is in the representation and the demonstration of truth. Becoming it. This is why I've always said, when you're dealing with your prayers, praying is powerful. We do need visionaries. Praying is very powerful because praying creates frequency. And not only that, praying also creates outcomes. But you know what's even more powerful? When you become your prayer. When you embody your prayer and you become a living prayer. You become it. See, Frederick Douglass said something great. He said, I prayed for freedom. And I always use this analogy because it's perfect. I prayed for freedom and I prayed for freedom and I didn't get it until I prayed with my legs. Get that? Yeah, I say it again. I say it louder. I'll say it again. Frederick Douglass said, I prayed and prayed for freedom. And I didn't get it till I prayed with my legs. He became his prayer. You have to become your prayer. Everything you pray for, already know that you already have it. And become it. And be it. And live it. Feel it, express it. Become your prayers. And watch how life changes for you. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times we forget what we are. We get caught up with this, the body. We get caught up with the body. And we forget at times we're just using this body. George Clinton said it best. Free your mind and your ass will follow. But what's going on with many of us is that our minds are locked and we're following our asses. We're living through the body. And that's where the destruction comes in. And the further south you live in the body, the more destruction you have. See, everything is based on the makeup of man. Heaven, hell, all that, right? Above the waist is heaven, below the waist is hell. You know what I'm saying? Then you go into the promised land and so on and so forth. The pineal gland and the pituitary gland in the Bible is called milk and honey. The secretions that come from the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, the secretions, the liquids that come from them. The secretions is where you get the word secret from. You're the secret. The secretions are the secret in you, and you're the secret. Those pineal gland, that pituitary gland, and those secretions, milk and honey, the hypothalamus also gives off secretion. And there's a part of the hypothalamus that's called the claws interior, or what we call the Santa Claus, the one who gives gifts. This is all internal. This is all within you. You understand what I mean? The Pingala and the Ida and the Pingala nerves and the crucifixion takes place right there. Right here, where the shoulders, spinal cord and the shoulders meet right here. The breakdown of the generative seed that travels back through man. You know, the father, Jesus returned to his father. In allegory, that's the sperm making its complete rotation back to the pineal gland as it goes through your whole body. So there's a lot of sciences and there's a lot of things about man. This is why I said to you earlier, you got to read the book. You got to read man. You got to read the book. You got to understand how you are designed, and you got to understand why your design is utilizing every other scripture or every other quote unquote what they call holy books and science books, esoteric books and books of allegory. It's all about you and the makeup of your physiological, chemical, psychological makeup and your physical form. Right? Jesus and the 12 disciples. I'll give you a perfect example. You have a stomach area, the solar plexus, solar sun plexus, right? The solar plexus, the fire pillar, right? Inside of the solar plexus, you got 12 gastric nerve centers. How many disciples did Jesus have? Somebody tell me how many disciples Jesus had in the scriptures. Just put it up there. The number. 12, right? It was 12. Just like your 12 gastric nerves that surround the solar plexus, the sun seat, or the sun in man, or is it the son of man? But the 12 disciples in Jesus is within you. You got 12 cranial nerve centers. You got 12 cranial nerve centers. 12 gastric nerve centers. The solar plexus, the sun seat, or the sun, S-U-N or S-O-N of man, or in man. Which one is it, right? Then you got the 12 the 12 cranial nerves that surround the brain. And the brain does what? The brain sits on water. They say a law throne sits on water. But the brain sits on water and it's covered by 12 cranial nerve centers. There's that 12 again. 12 plus 12 is 24. So you got 12 cranial centers and you got 12 gastric centers. Is it the 24 elders in you? You got 7 chakras. Is it the 7 Elohim or the 7 Orishas in you? See, we deal with the science of frequency, allegory, and other things, right? But I'm going to stop right now. Because I've been here for a minute on this joint. Go back and watch it. Go back and watch it, share it. Thank you all for being here. Brother Eric Harris, thank you, brother, for being here, man. I appreciate you. Sister Moody Ill, thank you very much. Brother Isaacs, God, thank you very much. Brother Ron Johnson, thank you very much for being here. Thank y'all very much. Peace.